Working with horses is an inherently dangerous activity and should only be done by experienced horsemen or while under the guidance of a professional. Working with horses is an inherently dangerous activity and should only be done by experienced horsemen or while under the guidance of a professional. So we've been through the weekend, and now we are on week 2, session 3 with Miss Candy. I'm a little under the weather, but it's winter and that's what happens. So we're going to keep working through it. Before I start anything today, I want to see what she remembers from the last week. And as an additional, I've noticed she walked up really well today. She was a little resistant to coming up the last 2 sessions. She walked up really well today by comparison, which means to me that she's starting to enjoy the learning process. If you go out and your horse runs away from you, or if it's really hard to lead up to the barn, that can be a sign that they're not really enjoying the process. You might need to butter them up. If you just have to keep training the way you're training, go out and just groom them, be with them. But this is a very good sign if they're not doing that. If they start coming up to you a little bit more, if they're eager to do work, that means you're on the right track. So I want to see how we're going to do moving away from pressure. So I'm going to start with swinging the rope at her back end. Good girl, she's stepping under and away. She's being an overachiever, but I'm just evaluating, so I'm not too worried about it. So you kind of walk back here and her not move. Pretty good. She thought I was going to ask her, and then I didn't. I'm not going to ask her here. Oh, she thinks I want it. Then she stops and thinks and goes, oh, she doesn't. Now I'm going to ask her to move from both sides since I've had her stand still. So I'm going to ask her to move away both directions here. Stepping to the middle, not asking. What am I doing? Move over. Whoa. Good girl. What am I getting ready for? Good girl. That time I didn't even swing the rope. I just kind of gave her one of these with my hand, which is what I want to work. Oh, I'm sorry about your face. What I want to work towards. Do we remember moving away from pressure? We do. Look how good that is. Whoa. I don't want you to move up, but that was very good. She was just starting to get it last time. I'm going to, knowing she stepped forward this time, I'm going to have just a little pressure right here. Can you do it? One more. Good girl. So I have not seen her since the last video. So this, how she's better at it than she was when I left her, means that sometimes the training sinks in when you're not training them. And I think that's what happened with this. Now that she's back against the wall, I'm going to come over here and not ask her. And then I'm going to put the opening a door pressure on her side. That's good. That's good. Good girl. I don't need her to be perfect. I don't need her to be in-hand trail class perfect right now. This is her first day being asked to do that without the rope swinging at her. It's her third day ever thinking of pressure probably. So I'm quite happy with that. I want to take this now into the next exercise. I want to teach her to go around me. So I'm going to start putting pressure on the back end, just like I do to ask her to step her hind end over. But when she does that, I'm going to allow her front end to go forward. I'm going to lengthen the rope, and I'm going to lunge her in this area, keeping pressure on the back end. She is probably going to have a lot of questions. I'm going to ignore the bad answers. I can't let her just walk away, though. I have to set the precedent of we stand when we're being worked with. She's probably going to make some mistakes, and I'll go through that with you. So, she's actually set herself up in a pretty good position here because I can take a step back and start lunging her from this position. So, eyes on me. Good girl. So now I'm not restraining the front end. Good girl. And I love the walls here because I can kind of bounce her off the wall. Like if she's getting stuck, like right there, I put a little pressure on, and because she can't like swing away from me like I've been training her to do, the only thing she can do, because she knows she has to keep that back end moving, is go away from me. Now I don't want to overwhelm her. I've already done more than I wanted to because she's understanding this. So I'm going to step in front of her, give her a second, and then give her some pats on the neck. Because remember, she doesn't like pats on the forehead, and that's really hard for me, but she likes her pats on the neck. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. Wasn't that crazy? Now, when I stepped in front of her, this is how I teach horses to stop on the lunge. Obviously, you're not going to jump in front of a cantering horse, but when I'm lunging a horse and I want them to stop, I take a step this way. That's all I do, just one step within my space, and that teaches them to stop. You start teaching them that by coming in here. And when they're walking, you can close the area that they can get to. You want to teach them to back off of your pressure. So when I'm putting pressure on the back end, she goes forward. When I put pressure on the front end, she slows down, or depending how much pressure I put, she's going to stop. This is my space. So we're having a little conflict. Good girl. And I'm just now starting to teach her to stay out of my space. And I'm calling my space like anything that's like 3 feet in front of me and over. Good girl. She doesn't want to be in my space, but she thinks my space is a lot smaller than I want it to be. You're a good girl. If you have a horse that's relatively sensitive to things like her, you can just do that. Put your hand up. It's going to tell them to move away. If you have a horse that's a little more pushy, you might need to push them back, put them into the space that you want them in. But I'm lucky with her that she's very sensitive to my basic, oh, is that scary? My basic corrections. I'm going to attempt to lunge her again. Good girl. So when she just put her head down like that, I just picked it back up. She's understanding this. She's doing the little licking, chewing, so she's gone through her little moment of tension. Can we walk and poop at the same time? Let's do a real big challenge here. Walk and poop. Good girl. Emma, step back. Get in her way. Whoa. Good girl. Now I'm opening the door, letting her go forward. This way she's a little bit more confused. There we go. I like this way of teaching them because if they do the right thing, it's easier for them. She can keep pivoting around me, and based on how I've taught her, that wouldn't be the wrong thing right now. But I want her to realize the rope in this hand over here and the pressure coming from over here, or even a little swinging rope over here, means walk. Good girl. If they get stuck, just cue them on. And, whoa. Good girl. She does want to be closer to me here, so I just gave her that little slap with the rope to say, keep your belly out there. Keep your belly out there. It's barely a slap. It's kind of like a poke, as if I was poking her side, right? You put your pressure where you want them to move away from you. So if I want them on a circle lunging to move away from me laterally, I'll move the pressure to the middle. See that? She steps away. Good girl. Whoa. Good girl. She's staying in a really good position now. I think she kind of understood because I set her back the last 2 times that I want her to stay back a little bit. That's very good. Let's go for a walk. And again, walking is the thing that I think she's best at so far. So we're just going to have a little walkabout, little mental break here. Thank you. I just swung the rope a little bit in front of her nose to say, hey, I'd rather just be a little bit in front here. You can be at my side, but you have to be a little bit behind me even when you're taking the smaller circle. That's good. She never let there be pressure on the line. That's very good. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to kind of put pressure on the forehand, which I haven't done before. She very well kind of translated pressure on the forehand means move that forehand over. And I love that she's starting to translate things. Never asked her to move just the forehand before. I did that time and she just kind of tried for me. She asked if she could turn in and stop. I say no. She asked if she can stop. I say no. It's just a lot of repetition. Allowing her to do the right thing. Allowing her to do the wrong thing and ignoring it. Asking her for the right thing again. That's very good. You smart girl. You smart girl. And eventually, once they're very confident in what they're doing, they're not going to keep asking questions. There's going to become a trigger, response, muscle memory, response. Neural pathway dedicated to the response to the stimulus. But for now, everything is still very plastic. She's asking questions, and that's what's to be expected at this phase. By the time I get on her, I don't want her asking questions about lunging, but I'll show you that as we get further down the road. You could literally do this for hours because it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to get good lunging the first time you really try it. And in this small area with a rough concrete floor, I don't want to be sending any horse, young, middle-aged, old, around in circle after circle after circle. It's just not great for the health of their legs. So I'm going to stop with that here because, like I said, it's not going to be perfect. She basically understands. I'm going to see how she comes out tomorrow and see what she remembers about this. I have a feeling she's either going to be a lot better or a lot worse. Either is fine. It's just how everything settles in her mind.